Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to talk about my reading goals for 2021 and also suggesting some reading goals for you if you're not really sure what goals to set for yourself, and kind of just go through all that. So let's just get into the video. So this year I really wanted to focus more on reading quality rather than quantity, but I did set myself a quantity goal, and that is to read 100 books this year. I set it like every year and I have yet to be able to reach it. The closest I've got I think was in like 2018 when I read 94, so I was really close but I didn't hit the mark. So this year I really want to hit that 100 goal target, and the way I want to do that is by reading more at night, because normally I always say I'm going to read at night and then I get into bed and I just fall asleep and can't be bothered. So this year I've been setting myself the target to read 30 minutes every night. Some nights I haven't been able to do it, but some nights I have. And I really do think that this year could be the year for me to read 100 books. And I just miss reading as much as I used to when I was a kid. Like when you're a kid, I used to read like 2 books a day. Like I was literally just this machine when it came to reading, but now I just don't have the time. And I think sometimes I end up in a lot more reading slumps than I ever did as a kid. I don't think I ever had reading slumps as a kid, to be honest. But we're going to change that this year. We're going to read 100 books, hopefully. Okay, so the next goal is the next 2 goals are kind of about me kind of broadening my horizons a little bit when it comes to genres, because yes, I love mysteries, yes, I love contemporaries, but we really need to broaden out a little bit, open our minds a little bit. So my 2 goals for that are read more classics, because my TBR is full of them and they're always on there and I just never get around to them because I always put them off. I'm like, oh, but they're too long to read, or they're too hard, or like it requires a lot more focus maybe than if I'm reading a mystery or a contemporary. But I do think it's nice and I do enjoy them. That's the funny thing. Like I do like them when I read them. I just don't put time to read them. So we're going to change that this year. And I'm also going to try and do a review on every classic I read on this channel, so you guys can watch and see, do you want to read that too? So yeah. And the other one I want to read more is non-fiction. Last year I had this goal as well, and I actually did read a lot more non-fiction. I would say I read like roughly one a month. I definitely want to increase that just a little bit. I find non-fiction easier to listen to rather than to read myself. So that's definitely what I'm going to try and do this year, is just read more non-fiction. Non-fiction doesn't have to be boring though. There's topics that we're interested in. So reading not just non-fictions for the sake of it, but reading non-fictions that I think I'll actually enjoy. And it's a really great way to kind of grow your brain and keep your brain very active. And also another challenge I set for myself is to complete the Pop Sugar challenge of 2021. Every year I talk about on this channel, and every year by like Feb, March, I have completely even forgot I was trying to do that. So this year we're going to do it. I don't care if I have to read a bunch of books I hate. I just want to do it because I just want that completion kind of thing. I think it's like 50 books, so hopefully we can do that this year. And I will make a video going over what the different things are, and also link down the sheet where all the challenges are, so you guys can take part if you want to. I think it's just a fun way to kind of make sure you're not reading the same thing all the time. Another challenge I set for myself is to write more reviews. I always see people write them on Goodreads and they're so interested to read. And I also find myself sometimes after a while when I go back to the book, I'm like, I read this. I do not remember a single thing that happened in this book. Like, am I sure I read this? Like, I don't think I read this. But it's just because I have such a short-term memory, so I definitely want to write more reviews, so when I read them I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this book, oh I enjoyed this. Less of like, obviously most books I give 5 stars I tend to remember a lot more about, but like the 3 and 4 stars, like they're great, but I just seem to forget really easily. And another thing, this is probably like the biggest goal for me this year because I think it is the most important, and it's just to read for enjoyment more than reading because something was hyped up. And if I read a blurb and I'm like, yeah, I don't like this, I shouldn't just read it because everybody's reading it. Like, that isn't the point of reading. Reading is escapism. It's finding books that you think you're genuinely going to enjoy to read, rather than just reading because, oh, somebody told you this book's great, but like, you know, you hate every sci-fi you've ever tried to read, and this one just sounds even worse than the other ones. Don't read it. Or you know, you might not like high fantasy, so why are you gonna put yourself through something that's just gonna confuse you? Maybe like it's just about reading because you enjoy it. If you enjoy reading middle grade books and you're in your 20s, go for it. Like, who actually cares? Because at the end of the day, what's the point of reading something you're gonna hate? There's no point. Okay, so those are my goals, and I'm gonna give you guys a few goals. Like, you can take any of these I said, or I can give you some other ones that you might like and I've seen other people saying themselves. So it's kind of like what I talked about earlier. It's about broadening your horizons. So let's say everyone you know loves sci-fi and you really want to love it. So maybe you're going to read more sci-fi this year, or you want to read more fantasy because last year you read a book that was fantasy and you didn't think you were going to like it, but you loved it. So now you want to read more fantasy. It's just about saying genre. It doesn't mean that you have every book you have to read has to be from that genre. It just means that maybe if your goal is like 20 books this year, 2 of them end up being that genre, or 3 of them. It's just about kind of just trying to not stay always in your safe space, because you never really grow in that kind of way if you are there. And another one is set yourself another books you want to read. So I know some people find this like puts a lot of pressure because you're like, oh my god, I have to read this many books. But setting this goal kind of just helps you monitor when you're falling off a little bit. And I know for some people, like hitting that kind of goal is just this like adrenaline kind of rush. And I definitely think it's a good idea to set yourself a goal, a reasonable one. Like if you read, like let's say 12 books last year, don't set yourself a goal of like 200 books. Like it's just not going to happen. It's about being realistic. But obviously, if you read 12 books this year, maybe try and read 15 this year. Like it doesn't matter how many you're reading in comparison to everybody else. It's just about growth within yourself. And if you read one more book than you read last year, like that is an achievement and you should be proud of that. And another one is kind of like what I said, I want to do the Pop Sugar Challenge. Look for some book challenges online, stuff that appeals to you, and it's just another thing of achieving something and being able to look back and be like, wow, I did that this year. Like that is something to be proud of. And maybe you want to make a goal that isn't directly correlating with reading. Maybe you want to start writing more because you like writing. Maybe you want to be more critical this year. Like when you read, you don't want to just read to be like, wow, that was cool. You want to look at the characters, how they were developed, how the plot came along, like all those things, maybe reading more critically. But that is not going to be a goal for me because I just struggle to read critically. Like I just read, like, if I like one character in a book, you're probably getting 5 star. And if one character annoys me, you're probably getting 2 star. Like, I'm a simple girl. I don't need to critically read, but I do think it does. Some people like to do it, and if that's a goal for you this year, then that's great. I just think this whole video is just hopefully a motivation for you guys to just set goals that are first of all manageable. Like, they don't have to be massive. Like the fact that you see somebody else reading 200 books a year. I didn't know anyone reads 200 books a year, but I'm sure they're out there. Doesn't mean you have to read that many. It doesn't mean that whatever you're reading isn't good. And if somebody wants to make fun of a genre you read, oh well, that's their own business. Like that's got nothing to do with you. And as long as you enjoy reading, that's the most important thing. And so guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope this year you do reach all your goals that you have for yourself. And if you did like this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and comment down below any of these goals that you're going to do or any goals of your own. And I'll see you in my next video. Remember to subscribe. Bye.